Hi Sharat, welcome. You are now mentoring on the Screenwriters Lab. While I think last year or the year before that, you were here with the script.
A few years back.
Right. So it would be lovely to know more about how the transition has been, and like the experience of the Screenwriters Lab, and how that molded you and your script, and how you bringing some of that experience to the lab this year.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. I was asked to be a mentor last year as well, and last year I was at that time I was busy with the post production of my film, and I told them that I gave the excuse that I have to finish my film, so I can't come. But then I later on told Martin Roberts, who was doing the moderating the lab then, that I really don't think I'm good enough, and I really haven't done much work in life to be able to tell that what's good and what's bad in terms of writing the script. I still feel the same, uh, but uh, but this time I felt that my film has released. Two of them released, and they both received very well, and they both have been part of Screenwriters Lab. So I thought it's my duty to pay back to Screenwriters Lab, NFDC, Nina, Leena, Urmi, all of them who are working with a vision which I didn't understand when I was part of it as a mentee and not a mentor. So, and more than as an expert on screenwriting, I was here to share my own experiences of writing scripts, and how to how you find a place where it gets made.
Right, right. So if you could just talk a bit about how labs like this help young screenwriters kind of mold, or not only young, maybe even experienced screenwriters mold their scripts, and probably speaking from your own experience.
I'll tell you, you have to have. It's a very depressing process to be, uh, and you have to be really courageous, which I wasn't. I never expected it to be an experience where things would be trashed like that. You come in to the lab thinking, oh, it's selected. That means you have written a masterpiece. That's why you're here. But when the sessions start, it really pulls you down, and all the right questions are asked about your script, technical and philosophical, both. And then you are not prepared for that kind of a session. So, it is writers are really courageous here, who are here. I really feel for them like that to be thrashed by someone like me who has just made two films, and that saying things about their script which they might not agree with, or there is a possibility that I'm not able to read a lot of things that are between the lines, and I'm just reading it. I'm not attached to it. I'm objective. I sometimes would miss the feeling that who takes the script forward, or makes it come alive. So those things, yeah. So I told them as well that so it takes a lot of courage to be here.
So, I mean, it's difficult to imagine that there will be a standardized process for mentoring screenwriters,
There
because.
is.
So, if you could just maybe talk a bit about that and what that entails.
See, it's divided into two parts. One session happens. I was part of the romance screenwriters lab, but the main screenwriters lab that happens, that Urmi conducts, that is also has the same kind of methodology to it. So basically, you meet for the first session, and where you, in an orientation session, you tell why this film, how are you attached to this film, and what it means to you. And you answer those questions, you talk about yourself, so that mentors, like this time I was on the other side, so that I know who has written the story and why he's written it, and why is it important to him. So those things happen, and slowly you get into the processes of going through the script page by page. You answer, you if you have questions, you ask questions, and then there are some textbook questions that how to write scripts. Those are also asked, people who follow textbook method of writing scripts, and there are people who don't follow methods of writing scripts. They both are asked those questions just to know if somebody is breaking the rules. Is he or she aware of the rules that are being broken, or it just happened by chance and it needs to be repaired, like that. So that happens, and then after that session, after those first time that we meet for 3 days, then we take a break of 3 months, and in that time all the writers work on their scripts and they come back to us. So we read the scripts again. In between there are Skype sessions and phone call conversations when they send you step outlines and stuff like that, and you go through them and you tell them what you feel and whether it's ready enough to go into the writing stage again. So sometimes there are some scripts which are not rewritten, but there's a step outline that you discuss because the guy or the girl who was writing it has just come to that stage. And writing is a tedious process. You really can't write. Of course, you have to write by deadlines when you write professionally, but it takes time. So.
Right.
So the second round that happens in Goa here, in that we address the new script if they have a newfound wisdom, or they have, after doing all that exploration, they've come to the point that no, what we were doing, we are convinced that it should be this way, and they explain. Although they don't need to explain, but it's for their own clarity. Talking to us is like talking to themselves.
Right. So it sounds like a visit to the psychiatrist in the sense that there's a lot of back and forth, and serious questioning of motives and where the characters are coming from.
See, psychiatrists, I'll tell you the big difference. Psychiatrist, end of the day, tells you no matter what you did, whether you committed a murder or you fought with your wife or you slapped your child, there is an intention there. So you're not a bad guy, you're a nice guy. Nothing is wrong with you. It's the situation. But when you're dealing with a writer, you're only trashing, and you're trying to be careful not to break somebody's spirit. But when a work of art or anything is trashed, it breaks your heart, it breaks your spirit. So yeah, we are way more cruel than
Right. So were you also
psychiatrists.
involved in the process of shortlisting the scripts?
Yes, I was.
So I'm
I was.
assuming that there were like a lot of scripts that came in. So could you kind of
60 in the romance lab? There were 60. I was
Right.
I was part of the screening session of.
Right. So could you talk about what separated the ones that kind of made it to the lab finally?
The thing is, it's romance screenwriters lab. So what we were looking for were stories of romance. That doesn't mean that stories of romance means romance between people. It can be romance with an object. So and many people, what they do is when they're sending scripts, they find a small thread of love story in their any film, and then they think that's a romance, and then they'll send it. And people send all kinds of scripts come, good, bad, ugly, everything comes, and then our job is to go through them. First is we read the synopsis and we invite the scripts, and then the call is taken. It's a long process.
Right. So now there are, I think 3 or 4 labs that are happening in India. I think there's the Drishyam Sundance lab, there is the NFDC's, 3 labs, romance, the
And
standard one.
there are a few that Anjum Rajabali.
Right. The Mumbai Mantra one, which is happening. So, and that seems like a very welcome practice, which I think earlier there was, we've been talking about how writers are not kind of treated with enough respect. You think that kind of is changing and
I don't know what's your definition of respect in terms of respect in terms of being paid as writer, or respect of getting the credit, or respect
all of them actually, credit and paid and
and or your script tossed around and changed by the producer or the director. Yeah, you have good and bad experiences both in the process, but that's the rule. Those are rules of the game. So.
Right. So obviously the lab kind of made a lot of difference to your script. That's what I'm assuming. So how did the script evolve, personally for you from?
I'll very honestly share it with you. I was a very adamant writer who, in the beginning, who didn't understand. I thought that nobody got my script. So I had my share of frustrations trying to explain things and this and that. But when I started rewriting it, I had a diary in which there were some 35 pages of pointers of my mentor was with me that time that I had noted down. Honestly, thinking that I am just sharing it, I don't agree with any of it. But right now that I'm here, let me just be part of it and sincerely listen to what she has to say. Then we'll see later on. I don't agree with it. But when I opened it again, I delayed the process of writing for 8 months. I delayed it because I didn't want to address it. I thought I have a masterpiece. Why should I hate it? So, but when I really got down to writing it, when I thought that okay, I should give it a shot, and then I just opened it. A lot of it made sense, and it was addressed accordingly. Yeah.
Right. So, just as a final parting note, words of advice for young screenwriters who are, probably writing scripts to send to screenwriting labs or working on their first scripts. What are a few things that they should kind of keep in mind?
Lab or no lab, keep writing. You only get better. That's it. Keep writing. Keep writing. Good, bad, anything. Just keep writing. If not the first, the second, the third, fourth, fifth. One day there will be a script that works, and you are your own teacher. Of course, you can do all the reading, but writing is an art that you need to practice.
Right.
We all think, we all have imagination, we all, but very few have the discipline to sit for 8 hours a day. And I think that discipline is important.
Thanks so much, Sharat.